Good morning from Ein Karem, which today it's a neighborhood of Jerusalem, but it was one of the cities of Judea at the time of Jesus. And it's such an amazing village to visit anyhow, but there are two important things that happen here in Christianity. The first one is the visitation between Elizabeth and Mary, Blessed Mary. And the second thing is the birthplace of John the Baptist and the birth of John the Baptist. Then in that case, we will start from the birth of John the Baptist, and the second video will be at the visitation day, 31st of May, later on. Then you saw me. We can start the tour right now. The book of Luke, chapter 1. Tells us that in the times of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah. Then let's start with to talk about the name, because it's still Hebrew. Zechariah. It's the name of God. One of the options. Zachar, remember. Then God, remember. Remember him, Zechariah, who belongs to the priestly division of Abijah. In Hebrew, Avia. There were 24 priest families, and every priest family had served the temple for 2 weeks. Then this is the 8th family of the priest, and if you go to the book of Chronicles, 24, you will be able to read all the names of the priest families. I have to cross a street here. And here it is. I'm crossing the street now. Then in that case, look how beautiful is that village. Indeed, isn't it? Such a beautiful place. I know. Ein Kerem, it's the vineyard spring. Now, the Bible mentioned, what, I'll talk about it again later on. Then Zechariah belongs to the priestly division of Abijah. His wife, Elizabeth. Now, we know the late queen. Wow, last time that I took the video of the church, she was still the queen. And God saved the king now. Elizabeth is not a Hebrew name. A real name was Elisheva. I know, it's difficult. The Greek couldn't even pronounce it. Then slowly the word Elisheva became the name of Elizabeth. There's so many small alleys that I must say that I didn't visit all of them. But I actually started the tour from here to avoid all the vendors next to the church. Then we stopped with Elizabeth, Elisheva. It was a descendant of Aaron. Now, who was Aaron? I'm taking you to the time of Moses. Aaron was the first king, the first priest, the father of all the priests. And now we can understand that Elizabeth wasn't a regular woman. She was more than that. She was part of the high priest family. And the proto-evangelion of James tells us that Mary was her cousin. Then in that case you can see that the connection between Mary and the priest families. Then 6. Both of them were righteousness in the sight of God, observing all the Lord's commands and discreet blasphemy. But they were childless because Elizabeth was not able to convince. vineyard. Remember Ein Kerem, the spring of the vineyard. At that time, I'm not sure that they realized that man could have problems too with that. But if we're talking about Elizabeth, that wasn't able to convince, and they were both very old, it reminds me at least 7 stories about women like that. For example, Sarah of Abraham, Rebecca, Rivka of Isaac, and my name in a way is Isaac, Rachel, Hannah, Manoah's wife. Then all of them are very similar stories about old women that couldn't bring children into the crazy world, but God listened to them. And in that case, once when Zechariah division was on duty and he was serving as priest before God. Now you can understand the duty. Remember, every priest family had 2 weeks to serve the temple. He was chosen by lot according to the customs. This is very important, a custom of the priesthood, to go into the temple of the Lord to burn incense. This is very important for us to understand, mainly because to burn a candle is a very important duty in Judaism. Now there's a car goes out from the monastery, and I don't want to die. Not today. Morning.
Good morning. Can I help you?
No.
Okay.
God helps me a lot.
If you want, we have a restaurant, and we have the best coffee.
You're talking about inside the monastery?
Yes.
Really? This is new for me.
So if you want, welcome.
I will enter through the main gate and then.
On the right and up.
All right. Thank you. I will do that. This is new. I mean, every time I'm here, I can hear new things. This is usually closed then. I'm not supposed to go into the garden, but you can see the monastery and wow. And the tower. We will talk about it later on. You know what? Let's talk about the 4 bells of the tower. 4 bells. One for Zechariah, one for Elizabeth, and the visitation, and the birth of John. Coffee. Coffee, it's a second name of mine. I'm a coffeeholic. I already drank 2 coffee, and it's only 8 a.m. I woke up at 5 a.m. to reach the place. I myself live in Tel Aviv, but as you know, my heart belongs to Jerusalem, and my body belongs to my daughter and my wife. Then both of them are in Tel Aviv. Then I have no other choice but to live in Tel Aviv. I'm a man. I have no power. I don't know if you know women. Oh, you know women. I'm not the first one that doing everything that the wife tells me. The wife tells them, I hear it a lot, and you know what? I accepted it. This is me. Then in that case, let's talk about it. Usually a priest was chosen to burn the incense. It's good because it's next to the Holy of the Holy, but not inside the Holy of the Holy. They're doing it morning and evening. The high priest is doing it in the Day of Atonement. And some of the Christians believe that Zechariah was a high priest. As I see it, and I study a lot about Judaism, and this is the entrance to yeah, I can see it's a new sign of coffee, drinks and snacks. I will try it later on. St. John Baharim in the mountains, because there's another St. John church in the wilderness, in the desert. Then now we can see the differences. Then the burned incense was something very important. It's like a prayer. You're praying, and the prayer goes to the sky just like the incense, but it actually gives us a very good smell. And you know that at the time of Jesus, they used to sacrifice animals in the temple. Then you can understand how the smell, and there were a lot of flies, and the incense turns the flies away. But the high priest is doing it every year in the Day of Atonement. He's not chosen to do that. It's not a lot. He's doing it. Then in that case, if Zechariah was chosen to do that, it means that he's a priest, but not a high priest. Opening hours. And this is very important. And this is even now different. It's, first of all, it's belonged to the Custodia Terra Santa, the Franciscans, and it's open between 8 to 12, and from 2 to 6 or 7. It all depends if it's a summertime or winter time. And it's good because it used to be closed on Monday, and as I can see that, now it's open every day. Let's go to the church. And let me see. The coffee place supposed to be here. But let me ask the sister. Then I know where the coffee is. Then let's continue. And when the time was for burning of incense came, all the assembled worshippers were praying outside. Why outside? Because you cannot pray in that hall, mainly because someone must announce Zechariah to burn the candles. And if there will be lots of people there, he won't be able to do that. Then the people were outside. Another reason to believe that he wasn't a high priest. And this is something that I wish that I will feel it or be in the presence of an angel, but I'm so afraid of it. Then an angel of Lord appeared to him, standing at the right side of the altar at the temple of the incense. When Zechariah saw him, he was still gripped with fear. I can understand you, Zechariah. I can understand you. But the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah. Your prayer has been heard. Your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you are to call him John." I love that idea because, at that time, and even now, I know that you can hear it in America. I mean, you can see it in America, but in Israel as well, when someone has got a son, is actually naming by his name. Then it's supposed to be Zechariah Jr. in a way. But the angel told him that his name will be Yohanan. And we will talk about the meaning of that name later on. And this is so important, mainly because the same angel, Gabriel, told Mary, actually chose Jesus' name to Mary. I mean, it's not that Mary decided that her son will be called, I don't know, whatever. the angel told her that Jesus will be his name, Yeshua. And I know when I'm saying Jesus, time to time, I'm getting some comment that say, don't say Jesus, it's not his name was Yeshua. I know. But so many people know this as Jesus. Then if I'm saying Jesus, it's not because I want to be angry to me. It's because it's a common name, and I love the name Jesus as well. But you're right, Yeshua, salvation, is the real name of it, or Emmanuel. Then, wait. And then he said in 14, he will be a joy and delight to you, and many will rejoice because of his birth. For he willed to be great in the sight of the Lord. He is never to take wine or other ferment drink. And he will be filled with the Holy Spirit even before he is born. Let me remind you, someone will dance in the valley of Mary when of Elizabeth, when Mary will come to visit her. And remember, today it's the visitation there. He will bring back many of the people of Israel to the Lord, to their God, and he will go on before the Lord, listen carefully, in the spirit and the power of Elijah, to turn the heart of the parents of their children and disobedient to the wisdom of righteousness, to make ready, listen carefully for that, to make ready a people prepared for the Lord. Two things we can know. In the spirit of the power of Elijah, then lots of time people thought that Jesus and John the Baptist was kind of Elijah, because we know that Elijah is between periods and he's supposed to come back again before God will send his son to here. Then in a way, I can understand why so many people thought that John the Baptist was Elijah. But to make ready a people prepared for the Lord, it means that it's a temporary job. Soon, remember this is the first annunciation, soon you will, in the same chapter, we will hear about the annunciation of the angel to Mary, and he will tell Mary that a son will be there forever. Then you can understand that when Luke built that beautiful story, he wanted us to understand that John the Baptist was very important, Elizabeth was a very important woman, but it's temporary job before the truth will come, before Son of God will come. Then they have a very important duty. We're still at the temple. I'm supposed to talk about that place at the temple, but guys, I wish that I could split myself into two. It's not so easy to reach from one place to another, especially when I know that the church will be closed at 12 o'clock. Have to sleep at the temple and then to rush back to here. Then in that case, it's we are in the temple. We didn't enter to the church yet, birthplace of John the Baptist. I hope that it's not too long for you, because I want you to understand that story not only according to the Bible. I want you to understand the story according to the Jewish tradition as well. And I think it will be very easy. It will be easier to understand the story in that way, and I hope that I'm okay. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and if you do have some questions, if you want to write me some comments about what I'm saying, please feel free to do that. And then Zechariah made his major mistake. Zechariah asked the angel, how can I be sure of this? I mean, the angel is standing in front of him. The angel is standing in front of him. Then the question is actually a little bit strange, but I can understand. Remember the fear. I can understand Zechariah. Remember the fear of this. He said, I am old man, and my wife is well along in years. That we tried everything he said in other way. It didn't help me a lot. The angels say to him, I'm Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I have been sent to speak to you and tell you this good news. Oh, look at the kitty. Did you know that in Israel, I don't know about other places, there is a cat in every church? Why? Remember, every day we're eating the holy bread, then there's bread. And then bread goes together with mice, and then a cat can actually save us from it. And now you will be silent and not able to speak until the day this happens, because you did not believe my words, which will come true at their appointment time. Let me talk a little bit about angels. Angels appear, and stories of angels appear mainly from the Second Temple time, not only in Christianity, in Judaism as well. But Luke loved angel. If we talk about angels in the book of Luke, there are at least 28 times that they're mentioned, more than any other part of the Bible, part of the Gospels. Meanwhile, the people were waiting for Zechariah and wondering why he stayed so long in the temple. You must understand that incense is a very important stage in Judaism, burning the incense, because the divine presence is part of that prayer. Then they were wondering why he stayed so long. They actually knew that something is happening there. And when he came out, he couldn't speak to them. They realized he had seen a vision in the temple, for he kept making signs to them but remained unable to speak. You can understand that. They knew that something happened. It's not the first time that it's happened, and I know that the Bible mentioned a few times stories like that. When the time of the service was completed, he returned home. Ta-da-da! We are reaching home. This is the house of Zechariah. According to the Catholic, we have two houses. This is the winter house, and later on we're going to climb up to the mount, and we're going to visit the summer house of Zechariah together with the spring. And according to the Catholic, that is the place that Mary met Elizabeth. Let's continue the story. We are now at 24. After this, his wife Elizabeth became pregnant, and for 5 months remained in seclusion. Why? Ein Kerem is a small village full with Jewish families. Everyone knows that she can have no children, and suddenly she is pregnant. If it's scary, what the neighbors will actually say about it. The Lord has done this for me, she said. In these days he has shown his favor and taken away my disgrace among the people. Now we're going back to the birth of Mary. It's not part of the tour, but let me talk about a few things. First of all, Mary, the story of Gabriel and Mary was when Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant. It's very important to understand it. But one of the reasons that we choose the 25th or 24th of December as the date of the birth of the Nativity of Jesus is that so many thought that Zechariah was a high priest. And in high priest, remember, you have to, the incense is inside the Holy of the Holy, and it's a day of atonement, which is usually at September. No, it's, yeah, actually it's in September. At the month of Tishrei, then around September. Then John the Baptist was born at June. Something is wrong. Wait, it is true. Then the pregnancy of Elizabeth was at a Day of Atonement or something like that, but he was born in June, 9 months later. And the angel told Mary that she will have a child when Elizabeth was 6 months pregnant. Then in that case, December is the nativity of Jesus. But again, I'm not sure that Zechariah was the high priest. We are skipping the story of Mary, because we are going straight to Mary visit Elizabeth. At that time, Mary got ready and hurried to the town in the hill of Judea. We have a problem. A hill in Judea is everywhere. The Bible never mentioned Ein Karem, this side. But from the 10th century, people mentioned that place as the birthplace of John the Baptist, where she entered Zechariah's home. Again, Zechariah's home. What about Elizabeth's home? But it's usually by the name of the man. This is according to the ancient Jewish tradition. And greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting the baby, it leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. And she said, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the child you will bear. But why am I so favored that the mother of the Lord should come to me?" Oh, the mother of the Lord. She knows that Mary is the mother of the Lord. We know it because we know that Gabriel, the angel, told her. We might know that Joseph knows it. No one else. I mean, she just came to Elizabeth, and suddenly Elizabeth knew what's happening. I mean, this is strange, full with mystery. And this is the Magnificat. But we will talk about the Magnificat prayer later on. It's not part of that church because here it's the birthplace of Jesus. The only thing that I want to mention is a debate between Catholic and Greek Orthodox about Saint Mary was, that she was part of the birth of Saint Peter, what's happened to me? Of John the Baptist. Because at the 56th Mary, we know that Mary stayed with Elizabeth for about 3 months. First of all, about 3 months. It can be 2 months, 2.5 months. And, we know that 9 months. John the Baptist soon will be buried, will be born. But the Proto-Evangelion of James told us that she was exactly 3 months. I assume that she will be with Elizabeth to help her. It looks very obvious to me, but listen what's happened. Because she returned home. And the next sentence said, when it was time for Elizabeth to have her baby, she gave birth to a son. What's happening here? It looks like Mary is not there anymore. And if you will ask the Greek Orthodox, they will tell you that Mary wasn't part of that ceremony. You have to choose by yourself. And this is a very, very important Jewish story. Because remember, someone is dead. The name of the son won't be Zechariah. And there are so many people around her, and the Bible mentions it. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown her great mercy, and they shared her joy. But everyone thought that Zechariah is the father. I mentioned it, it's not in the Bible. On the 8th day, they came to circumcise the child. This is what a Jewish family is doing to every child. At the 8th day, even though it might be on Shabbat, they will do that. Then on the 8th day, they came to circumcise the child, and they were going to name him after his father, Zechariah. But his mother spoke up and said, his mother, Elizabeth, it's like she is a prophet, spoke and said, no, he is not called John. Now, can you understand what will happen now? If that is where Elizabeth is standing, and that's where Zechariah is standing, then all the neighbors are looking at Elizabeth with a huge surprise, and then quickly turning to Zechariah then they said to her, there's no one among your relative who has that name. This is strange. Then they made to his father to find out what he would like to name the child. It's the father duty. He asked for a writing tablet, and to everyone's astonishment, he wrote, his name is John. Immediately, his mouth was open and his tongue set free, and he began to speak, praising God. All of the neighbors were filled with awe, and throughout the hill country of Judea, people were talking about all these things. Gossiping. Miracle, not a miracle. Father, not a father. An angel, not an angel. Duty of God. You got a message. You got a message. And then what then is this child going to be? For the Lord's hand was with him. And now it's the Benedictus Dominus Zechariah song. If you go to the Psalms, you will find prayers that sounds like that. When I'm taking Jews to hear and reading them the Benedictus, what they hear is a Jewish prayer. The one is in the car is one of the most important priests for me from the Franciscan, because he's dealing with all the ceremonies today. And remember, ceremony today is it's a very special day. Then you can see a lot of cars here. Usually there's no cars here. If I'm talking about a car, let me tell you that at the time of the British, it's Second World War, that was a church that belongs to the Italians. Italians were the good friends of the British, and they were kicked out from here, and they used it as an army camp. And one of the cars was right here, standing in the middle of the yard, and fell into the ground. And that's how they found lots of things like churches from the Byzantine time, a mikveh, Jewish ritual bath, that tells us that it was a very important Jewish house. Then there's so many things that happen here. Beautiful church, isn't it? Instead of reading you the Benedictus Dominus, the Zechariah songs in English, which you know it by heart, so there's so many tablets here, and we will look for the Hebrew one. In Hebrew, we are reading it from right to left. Are you ready with your prayer? And although, as I believe most of you know it by heart, then Baruch from the first. ברוך אדוני אלוהי ישראל אשר פקד את עמו ופדות שלח לו והצמיח לנו קרן ישועה בבית דוד עבדו כדבר אדוני מעולם ביד נביאי הקדושים. להושיעני מיד אויב ומיד כל שונא לעשות חסד עם אבותינו ולזכור לעולם בריתו אשר נשבע לאברהם אבינו, אברהם, להצילנו מיד אויב, לתיתו לעבדו באין מורא, בקדושה ובצדק לפניו כל ימינו, ולך הילד, the child, נביא, prophet, עליון, Ein Karem, כי לפניו תלך לפנות דרך אדוני, להודיע ישועת אדוני לעמו, כי יסלח לחטאם, כרוב רחמיו עמנו, ודרך כוכב משמיים, בקוד יפקדנו, להאיר ליושבי חושך וצל מוות, ולשים פעמנו לדרך שלום. That's from Luke, in Hebrew, Lucas 1, Aleph. And that's from 68 to 79. I think that's the only one that you could actually understand. Then now we know the story. Let us enter to the church, but before that, let me organize myself because I cannot enter with a hat on, and I need to drink a little bit because it's quite hot today. We are now in front of the birthplace of Mary, of John the Baptist. This is the house of Zechariah and the house of John the Baptist. I forgot to mention one thing, and that is very important. Remember that there's meaning of almost every name in Hebrew and Aramaic, but we are not using it. What's the real name of John the Baptist? No, not John. Yochanan. That's the name of the child. That's the name of it. In Hebrew, it's Yochanan Hamadbil. Yochanan, Yohan, for example. But the meaning of it is very beautiful. God has mercy on you. This is the meaning of Yochanan, and it was very important for me to tell you that. The church is new, but it was built on a 5th century church, 8th century church, Crusader church, and sadly for so many years they used the Muslims didn't allow the Franciscans and the Christians to build here a church, to use it as a stable. Then the story is of building, destroying. I don't want to talk all about it because I need, I think, 15 minutes to talk about what's happening here. But although they're cleaning the cars now, let me see if, I can go down because they're not there anymore. Remember that when the British were here, when they kicked out the Italian, they took care of the church in Italian, and the British were good friends at the Second World War. A car was here, parked here, just like the car here, and then it fell into the basement. And then they found so many evidence from the past. Sadly, it's not open to the public, and I'm not sure that you will see a lot. But what we found here is a mikveh, which is somewhere here. You can see that they actually mention a cistern, but it's not. we excavated, and at that time when when they found it, they didn't understand that it's not a water system, it's a mikveh, Jewish ritual bath, that shows us that it was a priest, not priest, yeah, priest families or Jewish families, and if they have their own mikveh, Jewish ritual bath, to purify their body, it means that they might be priest. But they found here churches and evidence for agriculture. They even find here a statue of Adonis and Venus that shows us that it might be a Christian, a Roman place as well. Then they found a lot. One of the most important things that they found here is a mosaic floor with the inscription that say we built it for the martyrs. This is from the 5th century, not later than the 5th century, and I don't know it because there's a cross there. And from the 5th century, Theodosius at 427 denied, he didn't let any more Christians to mark crosses on the floor just for fun. If it is a tomb, it's okay. They're still renovating the church. It's something like 2 years now. And it was built by the Spanish, and you can see that, I don't know if you ever see it, but they cover it with beautiful tiles, but I'm not sure that you will see a lot of it. Yeah. Here you can see the mosaics with inscription. The Byzantine chapel held whole martyrs of God, right there. We don't know who were the martyrs. Is it the innocent children or not? But what we know is that it was a church facing to the east. You can see a little bit of the tiles, all the piece of art still not here. In that place, right there was, it's still, I'm sure that it's still here, a stone that we believe that John the Baptist as a child used to play with, and the Muslims wanted to use it as for plaster. They moved it, but God didn't let them use it, and they realized that they need to bring it back. Then they did it. You can see Mary, and San Francisco's, and Clara. According to what some believe, this is part of the Crusader time. On the floor here. But until someone will really show me that, I won't. No. The most important thing is the cave. Well, I think someone is praying there, then let's listen to him, and then I will enter.
Yeah.
us enter to the cave, to the grotto. You can see the bedrock above. This is the exact spot of his birth of John. The meeting is here, and look like the temple. Oh, the head of St. John, the end of it. It's right there. John in the wilderness, and here he is baptized, Jesus. It's beautiful, isn't it? Then let me give you 1 or 2 minutes to pray in front of the birthplace of John the Baptist. Oh, well, I hope that everything that you prayed for will come true. Matt, remember you asked me to light candles for your mother that is not with us, your parents. And although they didn't ask me to do it here, and I cannot do it here, I thought about you and the pictures that you sent me yesterday. I already printed it, and if I see a place that I can burn candles, I will do that. Not only in the places that you ask. And why? Because you're an amazing person. Then here you can see the Russian church, but if I go a little bit to the right, I don't know if you will be able to see. Let me see. Ah, yes, now you can see the tower of the Visitation Church, and I'm heading there because it is the Visitation Day. Ta-da-dam! Thank you for being with me, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. If you have some question to ask, don't even think twice. But you know, because it's open, let me ask the brother. And thank you for being with me. See you in my next video. Bye bye.